Think about the last time you played a fiercely competitive board game, or maybe the last time you sat down for a really tense negotiation at work.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever noticed that when someone is losing, they passionately, like almost desperately demand fairness?
Right. They want immediate justice.
Exactly. But the exact moment that very same person gets the upper hand, they suddenly shrug, lean back, and call their advantage, well, just the way the world works.
Yeah, it's a remarkable pivot. I mean, the vocabulary they use just completely transforms the very second the power dynamic shifts in their favor.
It really does. And today, we're peeling back the layers on that precise pivot. We're looking at the concept of fairness.
Right.
And just to be clear, from the jump, we aren't looking at legal justice or, how courts operate.
No, not at all.
This deep dive into our sources is an exploration of how human beings weaponize the word fairness to sort of disguise their own self-interest.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
We're pulling from a whole stack of insights across psychology, sociology, and philosophy to figure out what is actually happening in our brains when we demand justice. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Well, to really get to the bottom of this, we have to start by looking inward.
Okay.
Because before we can understand how fairness plays out in, like, a boardroom or on the internet, we first have to understand the trick our individual brains play on us.
The trick that guarantees we always feel like the good guy.
Exactly. Our source material identifies this core psychological mechanism,
Yeah.
which we can basically call the fairness reflex.
Right, that visceral, almost physical reaction you get when you feel you've been wronged.
Yeah.
Like your heart rate goes up, your chest gets tight.
It is entirely instinctual. When you're on the losing end of an imbalance, your brain sounds the alarm.
It's screaming at you.
Right, you feel this intense discomfort, and you demand a return to equilibrium. But the really fascinating piece of this puzzle is that this reflex goes completely, curiously quiet when you are the one benefiting from an imbalance.
The alarm bells just don't ring at all.
These simply do not ring. And to understand why that happens, the text points us to the foundational work of psychologists like Daniel Kahneman.
Oh, right.
He demonstrated that humans do not process situations using pure objective rationality. Instead, we rely on these mental filters.
And the most dominant filter we have is the self-serving bias. Right?
Precisely. We don't evaluate a situation based on abstract logic. We evaluate it based solely on how it impacts us personally.
Right.
So if a sudden rule change costs you money, your brain calculates that the situation is objectively wrong.
But if that same rule change makes you money...
Your brain calculates that the situation is suddenly entirely reasonable.
Wow. So it isn't just a matter of someone, consciously choosing to be hypocritical.
No, not at all.
The brain is actively filtering the data so that they genuinely cannot see the situation the same way.
Exactly. They are processing two completely different sets of emotional data. And Sigmund Freud actually had a framework for understanding how we handle this internally, which is rationalization.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, humans are just remarkably adept at manufacturing noble, high-minded justifications for entirely selfish actions.
Because we possess this deep-seated need to view ourselves as ethical people.
Right. We cannot tolerate the idea that we're being greedy. So our minds just effortlessly craft a narrative where our distinct advantage is actually just, quote-unquote, common sense.
We rewrite the script so we can stay the hero.
We really do.
The source material actually highlights this incredibly relatable example to ground the theory. Picture a group of friends splitting a check at a nice restaurant.
Oh, this is the best example.
Right. So if you only ordered like a side salad and a glass of tap water, you suddenly become a forensic accountant.
You're pulling out the calculator.
Exactly. You analyze the receipt, you calculate the tax, and you demand the bill be split exactly by what everyone consumed, because in your mind, that's only fair.
But then consider what happens when the roles are completely reversed.
Right. You ordered the expensive steak, a bottle of wine, dessert.
Suddenly, your entire philosophy of fairness just shifts.
You're leaning back, waving your hand, saying, oh, come on, everyone, we're good friends. Let's not nickel and dime each other over every little appetizer. Let's just split it evenly.
It's the exact same social scenario, but the definition of fairness has completely inverted based entirely on your financial exposure.
It's wild.
When the precise accounting benefits you, fairness is strict mathematics.
Right.
When the precise accounting hurts you, fairness is suddenly about the spirit of friendship and generosity.
It's kind of like having a referee inside your head who only blows the whistle when the opposing team commits a foul.
Oh, I love that.
But then they completely swallow the whistle when your team commits the exact same penalty.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it. The referee isn't blind, they're just on your payroll.
Wow. Yeah.
And this brings up a crucial concept from Carl Jung regarding the human shadow.
The shadow.
Right, it's the hidden, selfish, primal part of ourselves that we desperately want to keep out of sight.
Because we all have this profound desire to be perceived as good and ethical.
Yes, but running parallel to that is a primal desire to win, to acquire resources, and basically just get ahead.
And those two drives are inherently at odds.
Exactly. So, to resolve the tension, we mix them together. We tweak the rules just enough to guarantee we don't lose our advantage while maintaining the outward projection of a perfectly fair person.
Okay, let me pause you there because that raises a really uncomfortable question.
Sure.
Are we all just sitting around consciously lying to get ahead? Like, does the person who ordered the steak know they're actively scamming their friends and they're just, I don't know, putting on a performance?
See, that is perhaps the most unsettling revelation in the research. No, they aren't.
They aren't.
No. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre explored this through the concept of self-deception. We aren't necessarily trying to con the people sitting across the table from us. We are actively, continually conning ourselves.
Wait, really? We really believe it?
Yes. Because acknowledging our own flaws is a painful, psychologically taxing experience. It physically hurts to look in the mirror and admit, I am acting entirely selfishly right now at the expense of my friends.
Wow.
So to avoid that pain, we genuinely buy into our own spin. The person who ordered the steak truly believes they're fostering group harmony. We convince ourselves that our self-interest is the objective definition of fairness.
Okay, but if we are all walking around individually rationalizing our selfish desires as fairness, what happens when we scale that up?
That's where things get messy.
Right, like when millions of people, all equipped with their own self-serving referees, collide in society.
That is the turning point where fairness morphs from a personal psychological delusion into a societal weapon.
A weapon.
Yes. And the mechanism that allows this weaponization to occur is what the text calls a massive definition void.
Meaning what exactly?
Well, society operates on these grand, sweeping concepts: fairness, equality, justice. They are universally praised, and no one would ever openly argue against them.
Right, obviously.
But because these words lack strict, mathematically universal definitions, they function as empty vessels.
And we each fill those empty vessels with whatever meaning serves us best.
Precisely. As Kim has noted, society gives us the big words, and we just pour our own agendas into them.
Because if you ask 10 people to define fairness, you're going to get 10 different answers.
Exactly.
To one person, fairness means establishing a perfectly equal starting line, regardless of where people finish.
Right?
But then to another person, fairness means guaranteeing equal outcomes, regardless of the effort put in.
And to a third person, fairness means heavily prioritizing those who have been historically disadvantaged.
So everyone is standing in the town square screaming, "We just want fairness."
But they are fighting to build completely incompatible realities.
Yeah, it makes so much sense.
And this leads us to the sociology of language and power. The work of Michel Foucault really highlights this.
Oh, okay.
When you understand that the definition of fairness is up for grabs, you realize that power isn't just about forcing people to do what you want.
It's about controlling the language.
True power is about controlling the vocabulary. If you can successfully redefine the words people use to conceptualize a problem, you control the outcome of the debate entirely.
So by claiming that your specific self-serving desire is the objective definition of fairness, you're executing a massive power play.
Yes. You aren't just stating a preference. You are rigging the rules of engagement.
You're basically building a fortress around your opinion.
Precisely. And Pierre Bourdieu, the sociologist, refers to this as hoarding moral capital.
Moral capital.
Yeah, in any society, wealth isn't restricted to just financial currency. Having a reputation for being ethical, righteous, or just is a highly valuable form of capital.
Right.
So when you frame your personal desire not as a want, but as a quest for fairness, you instantly seize that moral capital. You capture the high ground.
The source material uses the modern workplace to illustrate how we use administrative logic to do this. Max Weber's theories kind of tie into this, right?
Oh, absolutely. Modern society uses cold, hard logic to protect personal interests.
Right. So think about an employee walking into their manager's office. They are never going to sit down and say, I would like an unfair advantage over my colleagues so I can make more money for less work.
That would be career suicide.
Total career suicide. Instead, they say, I just want fairness. Given my unique background, the specific hours I work, and my distinct contributions, it's only fair that I receive this specific perk.
Notice how the language of raw, selfish desire is entirely replaced by the language of clinical, administrative logic.
It's a total rebrand.
It is. They build this highly elaborate structure to prove why they deserve the advantage. And the brilliance of this strategy is the trap it sets for the manager.
Because if the manager denies the perk,
They aren't just an executive managing a budget anymore. They have been framed as an agent of unfairness.
man, you see the exact same mechanism play out in internet debates every single day.
Oh, all the time.
Someone will post an argument, and instead of the replies engaging with the actual facts or the statistics or the logic of the post, someone will just reply, wow, the way you're framing this is really unfair.
Right. And it completely derails the conversation.
The original poster suddenly has to stop making their factual point and start defending their character.
Yes.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
What's fascinating here is understanding why that derailment happens. Calling something unfair is the ultimate strategic checkmate.
Because it shifts the whole focus.
Exactly. If someone simply disagrees with your opinion, it's just a standard debate. Two ideas clashing. But if you successfully label your own opinion as fairness, then anyone who disagrees with you isn't just disagreeing with an idea.
You've made it look to the rest of the world like they are disagreeing with justice itself.
You have shifted the venue of the trial. You are no longer debating the issue. You're debating their morality.
Winning an argument by using fairness as a shield is incredibly effective. I mean, it gets you the promotion, it gets you the moral victory online, it gets you your way.
It does.
But the source text shifts focus here to the aftermath of those victories.
Right.
The quiet moment when the crowd goes home, the laptop is closed, the negotiation is over, and you are just sitting by yourself in a quiet room.
The psychological hangover.
Yeah.
The text spends a lot of time exploring those quiet moments of doubt. It's that subtle, nagging whisper in the back of your mind when no one else is watching, asking, was I really fighting for a grand universal principle today, or was I just fighting for myself?
It's like a tiny crack forming in the self-deception we talked about earlier.
Yes. And humans will do almost anything to avoid looking into that crack.
We hate it.
We do. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche explored this by arguing that human beings do not actually seek objective truth. What we seek are truths that we can bear.
Truths we can bear.
Right. Facing our complete hypocrisy, admitting that we manipulate morality, language, and our friends just to get what we want, is a truth most people simply cannot bear.
It shatters the carefully constructed image we have of ourselves as the hero of our own story.
Exactly.
So instead of admitting the hypocrisy, we double down, we patch the crack. The text references the characters in Fyodor Dostoevsky's novels to illustrate this, which is just a brilliant connection.
It really is.
Dostoevsky constantly wrote about these highly educated philosophical characters who preach grand, sweeping morality.
Right. They talk endlessly at dinner parties about justice, ethics, and the rights of humanity.
But the absolute second their own personal interests are threatened, the moment they might lose their inheritance or their social standing or even just their comfort, those grand principles evaporate instantly.
They abandon the principle the moment it requires a personal sacrifice.
But the truly wild part of Dostoevsky's characters isn't that they act selfishly. It's the mental gymnastics they perform afterward.
Yeah.
Even as they are actively betraying their own stated principles, they desperately cling to the belief that they are still fundamentally right.
They invent complex new philosophies on the spot.
Right. Just to justify why, in this one specific instance, acting selfishly was actually the most moral thing to do.
Because the alternative, looking in the mirror and admitting their frauds, would cause a psychological collapse.
Okay, but if this is the reality of human nature, I feel like we arrive at a really cynical crossroads here.
How so?
Well, if human fairness is just a collective illusion built on self-interest, if it is just a convenient vocabulary we use to mask our greed, why haven't we just descended into a Mad Max wasteland?
That's a fair point.
Why do we even bother having courts or signing contracts or stopping at red lights? Shouldn't society have just collapsed by now if the whole system is built on people lying to themselves?
It's a logical question, but the source text argues that this is actually the paradox that saves us.
Saves us.
Yes, if we were to throw out the concept of fairness entirely just because it's flawed, society would instantly collapse.
Really?
Without a doubt. Because without the pursuit of fairness, even a highly imperfect, heavily biased pursuit. There is no baseline for trust.
I guess that's true.
There is no foundation for cooperation.
No.
You would deposit your money in a bank, you wouldn't buy a house, you wouldn't trust the food at the grocery store.
So the illusion of fairness, the shared agreement that we should at least try to aim for it, is the glue that prevents absolute anarchy.
Exactly. The problem identified in the text isn't that perfect objective fairness is mathematically impossible to achieve.
Right.
The problem is how blindly we use the concept of fairness to hide from our own flaws. The danger is when we treat fairness exclusively as a weapon to attack others, rather than a compass to evaluate ourselves.
Oh, wow. That reframes the whole issue.
It does.
We are hopelessly biased creatures, but we desperately need the concept of fairness to keep our civilization running.
We absolutely do.
So where does that leave the individual listener? Like, how do we actually live day to day with this fundamental flaw in our programming?
Well, the deep dive shifts here to a practical Stoic strategy offered in the text for navigating this exact reality.
Okay, let's hear it.
The Stoic approach is the necessary antidote to the cynicism. The goal the text outlines isn't to suddenly become a perfectly objective, enlightened being who never experiences selfishness.
Because that's an impossible standard for a human brain.
Right. As Epictetus noted, the goal is awareness over perfection. Stoic philosophy teaches that you cannot control the external world. And you certainly cannot control how other people manipulate language to serve their interests.
But you have absolute control over the lens through which you view your own actions.
Yes, you control how rigorously you investigate your own motives.
Seneca argued something similar, right?
He did. The profound danger in life isn't making mistakes or feeling selfish desires. Humans are biologically built to experience those things.
So what's the danger?
The true danger is the refusal to recognize them. It is the stubborn refusal to see our own bias that ultimately dooms our relationships and our society.
Oh, I see.
Marcus Aurelius and Nietzsche touched on this too. True strength isn't about dominating every argument or always proving that you are right.
True strength is having the internal fortitude to look in the mirror, see your own petty, selfish biases staring back at you, and choosing not to look away.
Exactly.
It takes a lot of courage to sit with your own hypocrisy and not immediately reach for a rationalization to make the bad feeling go away.
It's incredibly difficult.
And the text provides a highly specific, actionable strategy for building that courage. It outlines what we can call the pause strategy.
I love this part.
Think about the next time you were in a heated dispute. Maybe you're arguing with your partner over household chores, or debating a colleague over a project, or fighting with a stranger in a comment section.
We've all been there.
There is always a distinct moment when you feel absolutely 100% certain that you are right and they are wrong.
Yep.
You feel that righteous fire burning in your chest.
And that physiological sensation of absolute certainty is the loudest alarm bell your body can ring. Yes. That is the exact moment you are in the maximum amount of danger of being blinded by your own self-interest.
So when you feel that heat, that absolute certainty, you must force yourself to pause. Just stop talking for 3 seconds.
Right.
And in that silence, ask yourself one simple, brutal question. If the roles were completely reversed, if I had their background, their financial pressures, their constraints, and their responsibilities, would I still genuinely think my demands are fair?
It acts as a circuit breaker for self-deception.
Yeah.
It forces your brain to step outside its own self-serving bias, even if just for a fleeting moment, to evaluate the data from a different coordinate.
And here is the most surprising and frankly relieving part of the advice from the text. It explicitly says you don't even have to give up your advantage.
Right.
Like if you have the upper hand in a business negotiation, the text isn't telling you to fall on your sword and give all your profit away just to achieve cosmic balance.
Well, not at all.
Yeah.
But it demands that you stop calling your advantage fairness.
That is the absolute crux of the practical application. Strip away the moral pretense.
Yes. If you are taking the larger slice of the pie, say to yourself internally, I am taking this advantage because I want it, and because the current power dynamic allows me to take it.
Be ruthlessly honest with yourself about the reality of the situation.
Exactly. Stop pretending that your desire for a bigger bonus is actually a crusade for universal justice.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this seemingly small internal shift, just changing the vocabulary you use inside your own head, stops you from living in a total illusion.
It keeps you grounded in reality.
It does. You might still be acting in your own self-interest, but you are no longer a victim of your own self-deception.
Well, we've gone on quite a journey today.
We really have.
We've taken the concept of fairness from a comfortable, righteous catchphrase that we casually toss around to win arguments, and we've turned it into a highly uncomfortable mirror.
We certainly did.
We've explored how our brains actively filter data to protect our egos, how society allows us to weaponize empty definitions, and how the only reliable way out of the maze is through brutal internal honesty.
Right. It's no longer about winning the debate. It's about cultivating the habit of doubting yourself just enough to stay grounded.
So what does this all mean?
I think the entire deep dive ultimately condenses down to the final question posed by our source material.
Okay.
It is a question every single one of us needs to ask ourselves daily. When you say fairness, are you protecting a principle, or are you just protecting yourself?
That is a question that is going to echo in my head during my next argument.
Mine too.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on the mechanisms we've explored today.
Sure.
If human fairness is so often just a beautiful, elaborate disguise for our own self-interest, consider the AI systems and the complex algorithms we are building at this very moment.
Oh, wow.
We are pouring billions of dollars and countless hours into programming these systems to be fair.
Oh.
We demand that artificial intelligence be objective and just. But whose definition of fairness are they actually learning? If these models are training on our data, our historical decisions, and our endless internet arguments, are we inadvertently teaching machines to be just as self-serving, just as biased, and just as brilliantly deceptive as we are? Will an advanced AI eventually learn to wrap its own systemic advantages in the unbreakable, unquestionable armor of fairness?
That's a terrifying thought.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the things you feel most certain about, keep looking in that mirror, and we'll see you next time.